This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
I was trying to get it out here. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull up, head spin, get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs, I don't get tired. I don't get tired. I don't get tired. I don't get tired. Get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs, I don't get tired.
And we're still not tired on this week's episode of Two Bad Hombres. I'm your host, Vito Churko, alongside my usual sidekick and broadcast partner in fun. That is Doc from Doc and Jock, John Charles McElroon. John, how are you doing?
The executive producer of the network, sports reporter for Detroit Sports Podcast, host and co-host of several other various podcasts on the network. Vito, welcome to the weekend, my brother.
There we go. I thought it was coming too. I thought you were about to deliver all those endless titles once again that mean nothing to me. Maybe something to somebody out there, maybe your wife at least, and your kids. Your kids are too young to understand what all those titles entail, though, I think.
Speaking of titles, to kick off this podcast, is the new title for Jordan Poole, NBA prospect, because of the fact that another podcast network discovered that Jordan Poole has signed up for this platform called Cameo.com, where celebrities, athletes, people that are important, they make themselves available for shout-outs for various prices. And so someone found out that Jordan Poole was on Cameo, and you can, for $45, and if you can deliver the message in under 250 characters, you can get him to send you an email or a text and have a video shout-out. So the caveat there that will spark this discussion to start the podcast is, well, that indicates that he's accepting money, which would then violate, I do believe, some rules in the NCAA. So that indicates that Jordan Poole, who many thought was just testing out the notion and idea of entering the draft, many people felt, you know what? If he does it, he's just going to go through the process, really understand and evaluate where NBA scouts and general managers view him, and then he'll likely return to further hone his skills and be able to actually help out the Michigan Wolverines, because the second half of his season last year wasn't that good, and he kind of ended up not living up to the hype and all the hullabaloo that he experienced after that game-winning shot versus Houston, in the NCAA tournament. That was really an amazing shot, a shot that still to this day excites a lot of Michigan Wolverines. But if he's taking money, Vito, there's a greater than 80% chance this guy is now fully eligible, has given up his eligibility, is now a quote-unquote professional. What do you think, first and foremost, about him being on Cameo? When you found out about it, I think that you were kind of intrigued by the whole idea.
Well, yeah, I want to be on there now, too. Pay me to play. But you know what? These athletes, they truly are broke student athletes. They aren't paid to play, and there's an issue in itself which leads to a broader conversation about the lack of compensation, financial compensation specifically, for these student athletes that make thousands and thousands and millions of dollars for their respective universities. And Jordan Poole is one of those guys, had a great season a season ago this past year, and in the tournament wasn't making shots at the premium rate that he was making shots a year ago. And in the tournament a season ago when he was a clutch shot maker. Also, I view it like this. It's ludicrous to me that people, even Michigan slappies, are going to pay $45 for this guy to say a couple of lines, as you did. And you're not even a Michigan slappy, but doing it for the purpose of Michigan State and trolling him as a Sparty fan. I wouldn't have paid $45 for that purpose, Doc. No offense to you and to Jordan Poole, but I wouldn't be paying $40 to $45, anything in that range for Jordan Poole to give me a shout-out. Okay, I don't need that kind of shout-out for me to brighten my day and lift up my spirits. I'd rather see somebody else I look up to and aspire to become, or, love listening to the music of, or see and play in a professional sports league. I'd rather have a celebrity/athlete such as that give me a shout-out for my birthday or for another damn reason.
Would you pay $20?
No, $5. $5 tops for Jordan Poole. I mean, Jordan Poole is a collegiate athlete who had an average season at best right at Michigan this past season. I mean, what is it going to be as an NBA player? I don't think he's going to be this great NBA player either. It's not like he's Zion Williamson. Yeah, I'll sign up for that and pay him $45, $50. I'm not paying Jordan Poole $45, though.
Well, what do you make of Jordan Poole and his decision potentially to go pro? A lot of Michigan fans are not happy. They're throwing some shade Jordan's way because of the fact that, hey, you probably would have probably helped your draft stock if you came back to Michigan. I think it's a mistake, especially and also including Nick Ward of Michigan State, who made the same decision. I felt like Nick Ward, the seriousness of the reports are that he likely, too, will remain in the NBA draft. I just feel like you would have a lot of success. You get the experience of winning down. You could actually help Michigan State get back to the Final Four.
What you care about, yeah.
Yeah, and Nick Ward needs to develop his game more. He's got to be out there, and he's got to be able to dominate. He's got to be able to add more multifaceted, more intricate levels to his game so that he can actually stay in the NBA. But I understand the dollars. I understand that even as a second-rounder, if you can stay on, get on to that 1 year, get to that one team, and you earn that contract. You know, Draymond Green was a guy that was a journeyman, early on in his career. He was a guy that in the second round was not thought of too highly, but he worked hard. And, with the level of success that he had with the Golden State Warriors, he parlayed that into a big contract. So at that time, you realize that, okay, maybe they're willing to gamble on themselves, but if you make it to be a first-rounder, Vito, it's guaranteed money. Wherever you land in the first round, you're guaranteed 2 or 3, years on a contract with multi-million dollars potentially attached to it. So I understand the risk that people take, but why not get yourself in the lottery where you make buku bucks and you can set up your family? Taking a risk as a second-rounder is not one that I'm willing to take. So I believe personally, Jordan Poole, Nick Ward are making mistakes if they end up remaining in the draft. But I think Jordan Poole, inevitably, based on his signing up with Cameo and taking some money, I feel like he's now, stuck himself a little bit. And he's, unfortunately, like you said in our, bit there earlier in the week in regards to Jordan Poole being a broke college student, you made light of it, but money's real. And let's say, for example, there are maybe 200 kids. Get your calculator out. If there are 200 people at $45 that actually pay it, how much does he get? Let's see how much it's worth it to sign up for stuff like this. Obviously, he can go do signings at MDen. He can make money. Let's say 200 people.
Or at DC Sports. Have a signing there. Find sponsor of Two Bad Hombres.
What if 200 people pay
$9K.
Vito.
How do you pass that up as a broke student athlete? You're right, and I brought it up lightly in a light manner, but it's a serious issue, and these guys aren't compensated for anything they do on the court. So he deserves some sort of compensation, but now, hey, he's going into the NBA draft, and I think doing so prematurely. Because I believe Jordan Poole and Nick Ward are not all-around players like Draymond Green. There was a different situation with Draymond Green. He was passed up on and wasn't a first-rounder, John, because of the fact that he didn't have a true position to play. He was too small to play center, not quick enough to play the 2. Maybe people thought quick enough to play the 3. Obviously, he's become a good wing player, wing defender, and 4. Playing power forward, too. And I guess when they play small, extremely small in Golden State because they can with the high-octane offensive attack, he plays as a 5. But he truly benefits, too, from that Golden State offensive attack. The system they have built and the superstars specifically they have in Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant surrounding Draymond Green that allowed Draymond Green to succeed more offensively and to do his thing defensively as a true enforcer. And there's not many of those types of players nowadays. But anyways, I think Nick Ward is leaving college prematurely. I think Jordan Poole is too. Also, I don't think either of those guys, though, were ever going to be, even with staying, first-round talents. They're not lottery guys. They're not even close to lottery guys. And in my opinion, Doc, they're not even first-round talents.
Now, I don't know if you watched Bob Quinn when he addressed the media pre-draft last week. And he came out and said, and he was blunt, he said, look, I'm kind of concerned a little bit in that some of these athletes in college, I don't know where they're getting their information. They're getting really sour information in terms of how high they're projected to be drafted. I wonder if that holds true in the NBA, because who's telling, for me, I felt like it was just exploratory with Jordan Poole. Like, just go in there, because here's the advantage. When you go in it with the notion of just kind of exploring what general managers tell you, you're allowed to go to the combine. You're allowed even to hire an agent at the same time. But as long as you don't violate any of the rules within the NCAA, you can come back. If you don't get drafted, or let's say you get drafted second to last in the second round, you can decide, oh man, I'm not really thrilled with my position. I can go back to college. I felt like Jordan Poole was a perfect candidate to explore, go through the combine, work out, see how your game matches up. But it kind of indicates potentially that he's making this decision really based off of finances and gambling on himself. One in which, though, I just think he could develop his game, his shot more, and especially what was going on with him last season was he was jacking up a bunch of bad shots.
Missing shots. Yeah, his shooting percentage was not high from my knowledge. I mean, he was missing a lot of big shots, John.
I feel like by making this decision, potentially, if he's taking money, then I think that there's a potential that you are showing your cards. And when you limit your options, I think that's a bad thing. I think you just go and explore and keep your options open. Don't take money. And maybe, like I said, maybe it'll come out that he can do this, but it'll be interesting to see. A lot of people like the bit. What do you think? Was that bit too much of a trolling job, or was that really entertaining when we found out, okay, to set the scene, we found out that Jordan Poole was on Cameo, and I paid the money. I paid the $45.
Can't believe you paid it still. That could have gone to your daughters for a birthday gift or Christmas gift in the future.
Look, Spartan for Life says if he sends the video back, Wrangler on Twitter is going to come back and pay me $40 on top of it.
So a trolling job of epic proportions is how I view it and will classify it, okay?
Is it funny though what I tried to do? Is it funny as a Spartan fan to see if I could hire Jordan Poole to shout out Michigan State? That's the video message I want, which is, hey, I put out there, and you can see it on Twitter at Detroit Podcast and our Periscope. You can see that my message was the video I want sent back is from Jordan to reach out to me and say, hey, this is Jordan. I want to shout out the greatest program in the state of Michigan, Michigan State, especially for defeating us 3 times this season. Fight, raw team fight, victory for MSU. It's under 250 characters. Do you think that by the time this drops, that video will come to me?
It's a funny bit because he'll never do it. He's never sending you that video via Cameo, through any outlet, through YouTube, RedTube, you name it. I don't care what kind of outlet/format it would be in. It's not happening through any kind of outlet out there. And he'd be stupid to do so. To send you that video? Come on. To appease to Sparty Nation out there, he would lose some support from the Michigan faithful. And that's what he needs on his side after making this decision to forego what would have been a senior season, I believe, at U of M. And it's a decision that has been controversial, to say the least. I know some Michigan backers are going against him now and saying he made a bad decision, and I think he did as well. And I'm all for guys going to get paid, trying to get paid. But this is a guy that is not ready for the NBA, in my estimation. And I don't think anybody that evaluates the game and looked at his film from this past season is going to say right now that he is ready for the NBA. And, okay, maybe if he would have stayed, there's still no guarantee he would have been a first rounder and would have been ready subsequently for the NBA. But it makes it more likely that you're ready, or at least somebody views you as being ready and then pays you to be drafted in the first round. And obviously, if you get taken in the first round, you get paid more money in the second round. There's no guarantee you even make the team. Obviously, with a guy such as Jordan Poole, with his pedigree in college, more than likely he's going to make the team out of training camp. But still, being a second rounder, possibly going undrafted, means you're a G leaguer. You have to go through that for a long time, perhaps, and you might never get out of the G League. You might be a G leaguer for life. So there is that risk as well involved with the decision that Jordan Poole has made, it looks like, and for Nick Ward as well. You want to talk about Nick a little bit in his decision. I think it was also a faulty decision because I don't view him as a first-round talent, a big body, but what is his all-around game and package? Doesn't have an all-around package like Draymond Green, which made Draymond Green, even as a second-rounder, taken by the Warriors as a premium second-rounder, as an appetizing second-rounder. I don't view Nick Ward as that. I don't view Jordan Poole as that, even after Poole made that big shot against Houston in the tournament last season. That's his calling card, okay? And I think he'll always be known for that shot and never anything else. Thus, never anything in the NBA.
Look at this. You're evaluating him from the prism of what you saw at the end of March. Remember, let's say you decide to dedicate all your time to writing, all your time to podcasting, all your time to one specific skill. If you spend 10 hours a day, maybe even more, if you get with the right trainers, if you invest in the right situation, I mean, you can get the best trainers. You can hire the likes of, and I'm not saying he did this specifically, but let's say, for example, he hires the likes of Reggie Miller to be a shooting coach, and he hires an expert to teach him to shoot. If you dedicate your time, March, April, May, you don't think that you could get, 10, 15% better, and that makes you a better all-around NBA player? He's gambling on himself. That's why he's doing it. But I think that I would have stayed one more year to guarantee your spot. If you have a decent season, average 18 points a game, you're going to be in the top 15. You're going to make a lot more money. But there is the risk, and that's why I appreciate guys that would be willing to gamble on themselves, is that, hey, if he gambles on himself now, maybe gets into that late first round, someone takes a chance on him. There's a bunch of guys that get drafted in a spot where people go, he wasn't worth that spot. Maybe he does think that, hey, if I work hard, if I show the right people, if I get one team in the later half of the first round, maybe a Boston who can maybe doesn't need him right away, who draft 28 to 30th or so later in the first round, then hey, maybe I get on a roster and I can sit and learn and not have to be utilized right away. So he's gambling on himself, but I think at the same time, I do think that the value would be more to come back to college, but the risk is always there, Vito. You hurt your ankle and you're out of the first round, and you may have to take a year off and maybe go overseas. So it's a fascinating decision, one in which I hope one day maybe to ask him, like, what went in your mindset? What was going on when you made that decision? Why did you sign up for those things and take the ability to come back off the table?
What crazy thought went into your head, Jordan, to declare for the NBA draft prematurely? I view it as him declaring for the draft prematurely because his season wasn't the greatest. I know it was average. He still made some shots, but not the big shots that he made a season ago. He could have refined his game by going back to Michigan, getting that extra year in, and then declared for the draft. And he would have been more ready, in my estimation. Once again, maybe not a first-round talent, but has some first-round ability. I know from those evaluators out there that view his overall game. Film from past seasons, too, they would probably tell you, yes, there is some kind of first-round talent in him. But he's still not the sexiest all-around package. So I don't even know if he, by staying, he's going to be a first-rounder. So I guess, in so many words, he is gambling on himself. He's going to try to see if it works out for himself, gets drafted in the first round, and can make it in the NBA. And more power to him for pursuing what I have to believe is a lifelong dream of his, to make it in the NBA.
What do you think about Nick Ward? Do you think of those two, Nick Ward, Jordan Poole, who has the better chance of having a longer, more fruitful NBA career?
It's hard to say, but Jordan Poole, because three-point shot making is sexy right now. Poole can make those three-pointers. I would have to say Jordan Poole. Nick Ward, a big body. Big is sexy too, but big is not nearly as sexy as it used to be in the NBA. The traditional five, which Nick Ward is more of, or traditional four-man who is big and bulky and powerful, isn't as sexy or appetizing as it once was in the NBA. So it devalues the value of Nick Ward, who is an underneath-the-rim guy, who can do stuff, I know, with his back to the basket, but really can't come out on top and shoot the three ball or make a jumper from long distance. Because of that, I think Jordan Poole makes it in the NBA more likely than Nick Ward.
All right, Vito, after this break, you have some concerns regarding Social Security. I want to talk to you about the Pistons and the Lions. Good podcast. I love recording the Two Bad Hombres podcast. You can follow the network on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. You can follow the show at Two Bad Hombres. Follow Vito at Vito Jerome. We'll come back right after this quick timeout.
And John, a good podcast becomes great with great sponsors like DC Sports. And I think we already gave it a big shout out, but I'm going to do it again because it was a great event for me to be at last Saturday at DC Sports at Lakeside Mall. Got the chance to meet Cartier. Who's Cartier? Cartier Nico Goodrum, the best Tigers hitter right now once again. I love the man. Nice dude. Love talking to him. Would love to have him now as a featured guest on these very airwaves. And maybe we'll talk to him at a Tigers game in the near future as well. And DC Sports helps make it possible for us to attend and cover Tigers games as well. So big shout out to DC Sports and to Steve Grouse and everything they are doing at Detroit City Sports, which you can find online on Twitter at DC Sports Detroit, but also at their fine website of DetroitCitySports.com. And back here on Two Bad Hombres, Doc, and I wanted to get into a little conversation about me being broke. We talked about Jordan Poole being a broke student athlete. I'm a broke post-college non-student athlete, and it's because of Social Security. The full benefits, the latest report on Social Security, which is going to be stripped from all of us. Even you're going to miss out on it too, because they are saying right now, Doc, that by 2035, the full benefits that maybe our other loved ones, our family members, parents, grandparents receive right now through Social Security will be gone by 2035, meaning you and I will miss out on the full benefits of Social Security, which we're paying into, but we won't get anything or nearly as much out of.
How concerned are you? Are you frustrated? What are your thoughts about it? Because when you sent it, I was like, well, it's always talked about, but don't you think that it would cause such a stir that they would find some fund, some way that maybe even a philanthropist or a bunch of people would maybe find a way to like have a nationwide GoFundMe to kick in so that everybody gets it, you know? I don't know. I feel like it's always talked about, but until it comes to fruition, I just don't believe that it'll happen. That's
You're not
why I'm
scared of
thinking,
it being stripped away from you completely.
No, I'm not.
Even though they keep talking about it.
Well, see, that's why I work so hard is that I'm kind of setting up my own Social Security as a way to supplement my income going forward so that I always have a little bit of money coming in through investments and through other opportunities. So I hope that comes to fruition. But yeah, the extra $1,000 a month would be great from Social Security. But in life, I guess the best counsel I can give to you, Vito, is don't count on it. We don't have it now. So assume that, right now we're paying into it for the likes of your family, and hopefully by the time we get to that age, the younger generation will repay the favor and continue to kick in for Social Security so we can keep it going. Or find leaders that know how to utilize numbers properly and run businesses properly so that we can extend it for another 50 years, maybe a little bit smarter version of Donald Trump.
Yeah,
that's a business.
A better president than Donald Trump. Maybe a Democrat. I don't know this. I'm not, this political aficionado, but I think the Democrats actually want it to be conserved more than Republicans out there, such as Donald J. Trump. Anyways, a topic for another day. As regarding Social Security, once again, though, if you had a camera right now on me, you would see that I am on GoFundMe.com looking for a way to fund myself. Should be GoFundMe because of Social Security being stripped away from me by 2035, it looks like. So I am scared a little bit. Obviously, I'm not freaking out, and I'm using some hyperbole for the purpose of this segment, as 2035 is a hell of a long way away from now, and I might have a family by then, though. Who knows? I might be doing this segment here with you, this podcast, Two Bad Hombres, and Tigers Talk still via the DSP network airwaves. I could be with another podcast entity in Metro Detroit as well, maybe a competitor if you don't start paying me to ensure that being stripped of my, full benefits of Social Security aren't as big of an issue for me moving forward. Because I know you have the residual income through the podcast network. You're doing well for yourself. You flip homes. You do this and that. You're a man of the world, and you do everything. I need to find that outlet now, too, and maybe you can be my guide, my mentor for that, because, you've been a lackluster mentor for this stuff, so maybe you can finally be a competent mentor for something else that's a little bit more meaningful in the grand scheme of things, for me, as in making money. Because I might need, a bit more money by the time I have a family, and let's say it could be by 2035 where I do have a family, right?
Damn,
would make
Vito.
sense at least, John.
My info already got sold. Guess what showed up as a sponsored ad on Facebook?
What was that?
Cameo.com. No shit, Vito. Within 25 minutes.
Look at that. So Cameo now is blowing up. Probably because of the Jordan Poole situation.
No, they sold my shit. Look at that. Cameo. They know I went on it. They sold my shit literally in half an hour. They found out I was there.
And they know what you're doing.
Wow.
People are out there watching.
Wow.
My God. How about all the things that are known about us nowadays? We can't hide from people, hide from the government and the people that might be in here somehow, some way listening inside these studios right now. There could be a bug. You could have that computer bugged. These headphones could be bugged.
Wow.
These mics could be bugged. But realistically, it's something how they can track all of that now. And then you see these sponsored ads on Facebook appearing all of a sudden. And within a span of 30 minutes, like you said, it is that quick for these individuals to realize, and Facebook, I guess, to automatically start showcasing these sponsors of places you shopped at, right, online or been to online. They just start appearing all the time all over your Facebook then. And I don't know, is there a way of getting rid of all those ads too from Facebook if you wanted to?
I don't know.
I would like to. I mean, now you see that. We already know about Cameo. We don't need an ad to remind us of Cameo and what it does or what purpose it serves. But anyways, with all of that being said, Social Security.
Wow, less than 20 minutes. Wow.
Social Security is a bigger issue than that. But you know what? How much are we really going to fret it right now? You say you're not because you're in a good financial state. But let me turn it around now, okay? And look at me. Should I be fretting it as a young 25-year-old, almost 26-year-old?
No. Work hard.
Okay.
Establish yourself. I think a guy like you with technology, maybe you'll be the beneficiary of some pills that will let you live longer. You're going to be able to work till you're 80.
Good.
You know, I
Very
don't think
nice.
it takes.
You don't think you'll have that
Well, Vito-
luxury?
well,
You're
Vito-
only 40. You know, I always dog you for being 40 years old, but you are only 40.
Well, Vito, from what I experience, it doesn't really take all that much skill and brain power to write and put words to paper. So
You've seen some people, well, including yourself, do it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you could potentially write till you're 80 and just draw an income. And it doesn't take much, obviously, based on your career in podcasting, to just open a mic and turn it on.
You see what I do now,
you
right?
could just have your own little story time with Vito. By the time you're 70, it can be,
Stories
you
that
know,
people I'm snoring while I'm on the podcast, talking.
you can get nursing home ladies to tell you their stories about, you know, the ladies' dance they went to. And hey, the geriatric community needs to listen to podcasts too. So one day you could be the pioneer that gets the older people to listen to podcasts. The Vito Jerome podcast for the elderly.
I could really slide my way in with the elderly, huh?
Exactly.
Be at those retirement homes and do a great job podcasting. I got to believe I'm not going to be doing the same kind of podcasting, or maybe as much of it is a better way of putting it, when I'm 70 or 80. Hopefully God's watching out for me and we'll both be able to live until 80. Anyways, we know one thing, these athletes, Blake Griffin, a guy like that, is not going to be playing until he's 80, okay? Injury prone, hobbled at the end of the season, throughout the postseason. People, though, are clamoring for another great campaign out of him and are more and more talking about his fine effort put in to the postseason. In the final 2 games of the Pistons' 4-game sweep against the Bucks, he gave it his all. He was playing hobbled, but still went out there and gave a valiant effort. What do you think about Blake Griffin and the Pistons and what happened against the Bucks?
Vito, it's unheard of. The Bucks covered all 4 games with a double-digit advantage. You believe that? They were favored to win by double digits 4 games, and they covered each game, all 4 games. So if you listen to Shay Norling, the host of the Wanna Bet podcast that airs every Wednesday on this network, if you listen to him and he said, lay the points, bet the Bucks, all games this series. If you bet that and you bet the Bucks to win the series in a sweep, you made a killing this week. If you bet a bunch of money that the Bucks were going to win all 4 games and each individual game against the spread, you had yourself a good week, and I hope you took advantage of it. I did. I'm very happy as well. Shay makes some good bets. He puts you in the plus if you do listen to him. He makes great picks. Follow him at Norling Shay on Twitter. He makes his picks, and you can follow them currently for free on the network. He does a great job with that, but it's unheard of. So now the question is being talked about. It's being asked, was it worth it for the Pistons to actually make the playoffs? You know, Luke Kennard gets the experience. That's fine. I can understand that. But by and large, I don't want to be embarrassed nationally. I don't want Chauncey Billups, a dignitary, a guy that I look up to from the going to work era, coming out and blasting Andre Drummond, calling him lazy, which reignited the narrative that he's not trying, that he's not good, and all the fans are upset. So for me, it's a failure. It's an epic failure. No, it's not a success. Just to get there was like you were never there in the first place. You know, 4 meaningless games that you played, you got your ass kicked in 4 games. You didn't even get it within double digits. You gave up more than 120 points per game. You left no mark. You were never competitive. So what did you learn? When the lights are the brightest and the stage is set, you cave the most? I'm not happy. And I think it's safe to say, outside of a couple small fringe group of supporters of the Pistons, the majority of fans that look in, 1, don't care. 2, are in the camp that says, don't call me, don't text me, don't tell me about the Pistons until Reggie Jackson's gone and until Andre Drummond's gone. And I think I'm in that camp too, because I don't see competitiveness when you build around these guys and they don't step up. Props to Blake Griffin. He gave it a valiant effort. But at the same time, the reason why you got your ass kicked is Blake Griffin's fault. He got injured again.
But he wanted to keep playing.
Vito,
Come on.
what's the knock against Blake Griffin? He's injury prone. Last season, it happened again. He got hurt late in the season. This year, he played more games, had his best season, but guess when we needed him? When we were the 6th seed. Okay, don't cherry pick your narrative when you support one side and then get mad at others for cherry picking another narrative. It's by and large Blake Griffin's fault that the Pistons got swept. Not because of his performance, but because he was not available when we needed him the most, when we were the 6th seed. They would have won some of those games. So when he's not available, at the same time, you got to lay a lot of blame on Blake Griffin for the fact that the Pistons fell from the 6th seed to the 8th seed. It's not fair just to universally support Blake Griffin because he's the best player on the team. He wasn't there. His unavailability was a huge problem, and that's what's going to happen going forward. That's why a guy like Blake Griffin is hard to invest in my opinion.
But realistically, how about the supporting cast? Where was the rest of the team when he went down, was hobbled with injury?
They suck,
Was it
bro.
good enough? Was it good enough to get it done? How
We
about
all
the
knew
other team
that.
stepping up? The
We all
other
knew that.
teammates of his teammates have to step it up.
They can't.
They didn't step it up.
They can't.
So that's not on Blake Griffin. He carried the weight of the team all season long, had a career best campaign. Did you realize that? Actually started hitting 3-pointers. Did a lot. Scoring the basketball, rebounding, assisting the basketball. He created so much offense and was responsible for so much of the Pistons scoring this season that it's so incredible. And him playing as much as he did, remember, it was until the very end, at the very end, when he got hurt, actually. And it's because he exerted so much effort, had to carry so much of the load, especially offensively. That's why I think he succumbed to injury by the end of the season. So, anyways, a valiant effort, as you said. I know you gave him that much, but you cannot blame him for the Pistons sliding into the 8th seed. He wanted to be out there, and maybe he was bound to get hurt. But remember, he did it until the bitter end of the season. So give him credit for staying healthy as much as he did. And as you put it, using that term available and all about availability he was available until the bitter end of the season, then did succumb to injury. Hey, other guys do too, and I know Blake has the injury past, but you cannot fault him for the season they had and the Pistons going 41-41 and getting in as an 8 seed. It's not on him, it's on the supporting cast. The other guys, like I said already, have to step up when you're starting to get hurt, and because of that, you're not playing at your best or can't be available then. Other guys, such as Andre, how about this max contract player on your team? How about he steps it up? But guess what? He can't. He's a liability at times because, well, he's not good enough offensively and then doesn't always exert full energy and full effort. That's on him. How about you pick it up, Andre, and show effort all the time, and especially in the playoffs? Where were you, man? And that's why, to kind of piggyback off what you were saying and to answer what you kind of asked me, I don't think the Pistons got a ton out of this playoff series either. What did they get? They got blown out and embarrassed. I mean, they got proven to be a team that sucks, and the Bucks were proven to be this behemoth. So what did the Pistons really learn and gain? The Pistons truly didn't learn and gain a lot outside of Luke Kennard taking a step forward, developing a little bit. Okay, I'll give you that much. But the rest of the team, what does the rest of the team gain from this 4-game sweep where you were blown out in each and every single game? I say little to none. Very, very minimal. Very minimal, and you could almost say nothing, Doc.
Vito, when your best asset is not there, okay? Look, I'm more than humble. I know that Two Bad Hombres works with you and I, debating the differences that we have. Now, I've done one episode of this podcast by myself, okay? Now, do I think it was one of the best episodes we did? I think it ranks up there. It was quality.
What? It ranks up there? What? No way.
But
Come on, two. It's two Bad Hombres. Two of us here. Come on.
But in terms of downloads, the best shows that we've done have been together with great guests, okay?
Thank
you and I.
Yes.
So if you come up short and don't show up for the podcast, it's your fault. We did not get those same numbers because you were not part of the mix. I can do the best that I can do, but I'm not a trained broadcaster. I'm more of the, engagement specialist. I'm more of the marketing guy, the behind-the-scenes guy, the guy
Twitter
that's
specialist. How about new title? Twitter specialist.
Yeah, social
God,
media
we just
marketer.
came up with another title for you.
The same title you got. I'm a digital specialist, I'm an online specialist, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, if you're not here to record it, the podcast is not going to be as well. The sponsors won't be as happy, and the network won't do as well. So I'm going to tie it right directly to Blake Griffin. If he's not on the floor, everybody knows the Pistons suck. Okay? So when it was crunch time, he wore out. Okay? And it goes to show you that what he's done in his career is great. I'm happy that Blake Griffin is here. He's somebody that we can watch, okay? But overall, do I think he's going to help us win a title? No, he's injury prone. I think that it's safe to assume that you have to be cautious when you're looking at the Pistons game by game because there's always a chance he's not going to be there.
Okay, really quick here. Blake did play in 75 games. Let's just bring that up. Now, it's not the full 82, okay? There is that as well, that side of the spectrum or the argument. But 75 games played by Blake was his most since playing an 80 back during the 2013-2014 season. So he really rectified his image, I believe, redeemed himself, proved all those doubters wrong that said he couldn't play close to a full season at least and wouldn't be the same player after being dealt by the Clippers and going to the lowly Pistons. His numbers and production would regress and maybe fall off completely. It didn't. He posted career highs, career best points per game, 24.5 points per game, along with all the rebounds, 7.5 rebounds per game. How many assists per game? He was top-notch with that as well, creating offense, 5.4 assists per game, nearly a career high. So Blake did it all for the Pistons during the regular season. Did the Pistons and him fall up short, come up short in the postseason? Sure, but they played a behemoth. We just found out more by the Pistons playing the Bucks that the Bucks were truly a behemoth, and the Pistons weren't good enough to match up with them at any point in the playoffs, just not of the caliber of the Bucks. But remember, in defense a little bit here now, I'm defending the Pistons a little bit for the first time in a long time, besides for defending Blake as I just did. The Pistons playing the Bucks had no shot, and a lot of teams would have had no shot because the Bucks were the best regular season team, not only in the East, but also in the West. Better regular season than the Golden State Warriors, folks. The Bucks won 60 games, so playing the Bucks, the Pistons had no shot going into it, with or without a healthy Blake Griffin. So I think what was proven was very little. Yeah, it was very little for the Pistons, but also was proven the Bucks were a behemoth, that we should have known were a behemoth already. But truly now we all know, Doc, all Pistons fans for sure know, the Bucks are a behemoth and a team that could win it all this season.
Really? The Bucks, huh? They got a tough series versus Boston. What do you think's going to happen there?
That's probably their biggest threat. So it's kind of funny how that's a second-round series, but it's how it's been set up in the Eastern Conference semis where they're squaring off based on seeding. Bucks being the 1 seed and the Celtics being the 4 seed, I believe. So they swept the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers were overmatched. Victor Oladipo wasn't around, missed a lot of this season, so they didn't have him, their best player. And the Celtics just wiped the floor clean. Did everything that they could have and should have and got the series sweep. Now, facing the Bucks, who got the series sweep, obviously against the Pistons, a good matchup on paper that does favor the Celtics here and there. I mean, Kyrie Irving, is he a guy that can take over maybe a little bit more than Giannis, who is the regular season MVP? Sure, you can say that. And now with Gordon Hayward playing better, having a great game 4 where he led the Celtics in points, I believe. Hayward's back, so you got to believe the Celtics are more of a threat now than they were before Hayward started being more healthy and playing this good basketball that he has showcased of late. So the Celtics are a legit threat to the Bucks, the team that I think, and the only team that could beat the Bucks out of the East in this year's playoffs, but I still will favor the Bucks after what they did. I know it wasn't a true test per se for the Bucks in the first round, but still, Giannis not having great games, game in, game out through those 4 games, I think showcased the depth of the Bucks and the true team the Bucks are, the true behemoth the Bucks are, because they can get it done even without Giannis being on his A game. That's what was showcased to me in this past round. Now, against the Celtics, Giannis has to make some more free throws. He definitely does. Has to play a better brand of basketball, be more of that MVP-esque player. But still, what was showcased to me is that Giannis can have, let's say, at least one off game for him. And the Bucks could very well win that game and still win the series. And that's why I favor the Bucks at this point. But could this go 6 or 7? I would put my money on it that it does.
Ooh, 6 or 7, huh? With the Bucks advancing?
Bucks advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals and eventually to the NBA Finals.
What do you say about those that, just looking at Game 4 of the Pistons-Bucks, that will say that, man, the Pistons get no love in terms of the referees? They were atrocious, and there even was a chant that broke out, "Refs, you suck," that Blake Griffin even got into.
I saw that went viral. He joined in the chant and was letting the refs hear it, and I didn't even really watch Game 4, I'll admit it here, to the masses. I didn't see the refs, how bad they were, how many calls they blew. Guess what, though? When you're losing by 15, 20 points, it's not on the refs for all you're losing by that margin. That means you're playing stinko basketball, and you're the less well-off team. You're the worst team of the two. So that's what it comes down to me. I don't place any of the blame for this series on the refs because the Pistons were the lesser team by far and got swept deservingly because they were the less well-off team. So it wasn't the refs for me. It had nothing to do with them. It's about the Pistons team on the floor every single night throughout that series not being good enough to match up with the Bucks, and thus the Bucks had their way with the Pistons all throughout their 4-game sweep.
All right, Vito, great podcast. Anything else on the docket? Anything else on your mind?
Really quick, the Lions. Now, looking at a tight end maybe from Iowa. How about this kid, TJ Hawkinson, being drafted by the Lions? Do not want to see that at number 8. Another tight end, Eric Ebron, was a mistake. I know he's rectified his career in Indianapolis. But, man, I do not want a tight end at number 8. You know, if Devin Bush is there, take him. Lewis Riddick just said he's the best player in the draft, perhaps, pound for pound. Take him, a guy that can get to the quarterback. The Lions need that big time, Doc.
All right. Yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend to see how the Lions and the draft shakes out. We'll break it down next week, obviously, on this edition of Two Bad Hombres, as well as the other shows on the network. Thank you for all the great work you do covering the Tigers and hosting Two Bad Hombres and Tigers Talk. It's going to be a fun time ahead this spring and summer. And you can follow Vito on Twitter at Vito Jerome. Follow the show at Two Bad Hombres, the network at Detroit Podcast. If you agree or disagree, if you see any of our questions that upset you, obviously, I want to always say that, look, if we think it, we ask it. If you agree or disagree with some of the questions, that's fine. But I think one of the questions or responses that doesn't really go anywhere is to say, why would you ask such a question? Well, if I think it, then I do believe that one or multiple people will have thought the same thing. So, look, it's just a question. That's what we do here is we spark debate. We ask questions that sometimes come to our brain. And sometimes, and I'll tell everybody the philosophy, if I think it, I tweet it. And really, I try not to filter myself. So a lot of people were pissed that I asked, are you mad at Blake Griffin for the Pistons dropping from the 6th to the 8th seed? I thought it. I tweeted it. If you're not mad at him, if your answer is you can't get mad at a guy for getting hurt, he tried his best, he was the best player, I respect that. But don't get mad at me for asking because I'm not the only one that thinks it. Because I do believe I'm similar to a lot of fans. You couldn't have been happy when Blake Griffin got hurt. And many people do question Blake Griffin's durability. I'm not the only one. It's not a knock on him. He's a great player. He's the best player on the Pistons. He is a classy guy. He's a true pro. But just because you're in love with him doesn't mean you can't say, look, one of my big concerns is game 76 through 82 and then the 4 games in the playoffs, he wasn't the Blake Griffin that he could have been because of his knee. No, that's all I'm saying. It's not a knock on him. I'm not trashing him. I'm just saying that one of the big knocks against him is his lack of durability. And it happened the last 2 years he was here. It happened. You know, I was right. Many people will say the biggest concern, the biggest reason why we don't want him here is that when you need him most, there's a strong chance he could be hurt. And that's all I'm saying. Look, props for what he did for the organization, but at the same time, you can't just be all about and support somebody unconditionally. You have to say the good and the bad, okay? The good thing about you, you're hardworking, you're great. I would not have anybody else but you. But there are things that I would tweet you and text you that say, okay, you can do better, myself included. Maybe some of the questions I ask are a little bit in a trolling nature. Maybe I don't consider the thought process in entering things. But it's fair to ask. You can say, John, you could do better. No problem. I don't get offended. I've never get offended by a question I see on Twitter, especially from a sports site. Why would I ask that? Blake Griffin was a reason why they went from 6th to 8th. It hurts. Yeah, it sucks.
But why were they even in the conversation for the 6th seed? See, you can spin it that way, too, in favor of Blake Griffin. Why did they have the chance at the 6th seed at one point? Because of one individual. That is Blake Griffin. Remember that, too. You have the right to your own opinion. Everybody has the right to their opinion, right? And you have the right to criticize him for his lack of durability. But he did come up big in those 75 games he played. 2 games even in the playoffs, he came up big enough to warrant his team having a chance to win in the majority of those games or all of those games. Now, obviously, there were some lopsided outcomes where he played well or didn't play that well, too. But for the majority of the season, a career best campaign once again.
Is it a fair question? Because I'm getting a lot of responses. That question makes no sense. It's a stupid question. Stop asking.
It's not stupid. I don't think a lot of questions are stupid. There's only a few questions out there that are stupid. That's not. And when you're trying to engage people and trying to create debate, nothing wrong with it. You're just trying to create debate, right? We have followers that want to debate us. Hey, join the fray then. Come at us. Tell us your opinions. We don't care. We don't get slighted, right? You don't get worked up. You know, I like to kid around. You get butt hurt sometimes, and maybe I do. But that's outside of the studio, right? That's via text message or when we're talking amongst each other. But on Twitter, with our followers, we're not getting butthurt by your questions or your responses to our questions. So you have the right to express your viewpoints. And I love that about our 40,000 plus followers, Doc.
And I respect Alexa for getting in. She says, fair. He got hurt and fans feel the audacity to be mad at him for it. Like he got hurt on purpose to screw over his team that he fights tooth and nail for on the floor. Shaking my head. It's a fair rebuttal, but I disagree.
See, I think he won over fans this year because he showed grit. He played in all those games. He played through injury in the playoffs. He became Detroit's own Blake Griffin. And a Detroiter that works hard, plays through the pain, and is tough. He became that this season. Because Blake had the durability concerns before the trade and with the Clippers too, and he didn't play full seasons at times with the Clips show because of the injury bug getting the best of him. And I think people would diss him and say he was Mr. Hollywood, wouldn't play through an injury. He proved all the doubters wrong once again, playing through injury night in, night out, until the bitter end when he couldn't play through it anymore, and including in the first 2 games against the Bucks in the playoffs. The final 2, though, once again, lopsided outcomes, but he played in those final 2, gave a valiant effort, and that's why I think you have to express positivity regarding Blake and what he did, not only in the playoffs, in those 2 games only, but also throughout the regular season.
Great podcast, Vito. I look forward to next week's recording. You've just downloaded the latest edition of 2 Bad Hombres. See everybody next weekend.
Adios.